Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today's Friday. Happy one, of course, and very special. As you can see, Red, Jeffrey, and myself, we are coming here today to discuss a very important topic. And so join in and drop your comments, your take in the comment section. Jeffrey, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to see you, Comfort. Good to see you, Red. Thank you for inviting me. It's glad to be here.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Red, for joining us.
Yeah, and thank you very much. Love being on your show, Comfort. It's always a great topic whenever it is. And hello, Jeffrey. How are you, my friend?
I'm well. Thank you, sir. I'm well. Thank you.
So the great topic for tonight, guys, says we are uplifting humanity. And today we're thinking about homeless veterans. And I give it over to Jeffrey.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you, first of all, for inviting me and getting Red up here with me. I enjoy this show, and Red, as always, you're an inspiration to a lot of us, and you've got this lifestyle of the rich and famous thing going on that I just love. So it's all good, you know. But you're right, homelessness, especially among veterans. I mean, homelessness, that is a big deal, and there's a whole lot of it going on. But when you look at the military veterans worldwide, especially, I mean, it becomes a very precious issue to us, simply because it affects millions who have served in their respective countries. When somebody leaves the military, I mean, there's a lot of different things that go into whether or not they're settling into society in a way that's going to be good for them. I mean, there's a lot of far-reaching consequences of things that have happened to them and things they're bringing home that affect their well-being and their family and communities and that sort of thing. As a matter of fact, we know that when a lot of veterans return to civilian life, right, they leave the service, they face or could face, not all of them do, but they could face some very unique challenges simply because of what they've been doing, what they're used to, how they served, where they served, that sort of thing. And that can include physical, mental health issues, impairments, sometimes in decision-making ability, coming home. They run into all sorts of things that could cause, employment difficulties, and in some cases, probably even isolation in society. So like a lot of things that we face in life, a lot of challenges, these things we're talking about that are faced by veterans leaving the service can lead to the topic today, which is homelessness. And unfortunately, it can affect, I think it can really affect veterans kind of disproportionately to the rest of the population. Now, according to estimates, and this is for the U.S., but according to some estimates, the U.S. population for veterans is about 8 to 10%. When you look at, and when I mean the 8 to 10%, I'm talking the veterans make up 8 to 10% of the homeless population. And that actually equates to, I believe, about 1 in 10, which incidentally, Red, matches, I think, what the UK is about. Australia is also somewhere around 1 to 10 homeless individuals. Canada, I think, is a little less, perhaps because of the sociality of its medicine and stuff, but they're 1 in 5. But when we look at overall populations, and then you kind of pull out the veteran component of that, it is substantial. So I'll stop right there. Give Red and you a chance to get in here, and we'll get a good conversation going. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks so much, Jeffrey, for that great introduction. And of course, Red, I would like to hear from you from maybe relating to the UK and other parts where you have an idea. So, guys, before we go ahead, sorry, Red, we are not just here to entertain ourselves with what happens to the veterans. This is OnPassive. And so we have an interest in their well-being. That's why we're here. So the next phase of the discussion will be moving into that. So would like to know your perspective. Thank you, Red.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we will, Jeffrey and myself will cover how this works into OnPassive. But like Jeffrey, it is something that is very close to my heart. Ex-vets in general. Jeffrey served, I served. And so, you know, I did 10 years, and I think Jeffrey did 6 years,
20
or more. And
I'm
I
retired,
was
yeah.
in the fire service for a following 6 years after I left. Now, we're talking about homeless ex-vets now, and just to give you a little bit of background to why they become homeless in the first place, a lot of it is exactly what Jeffrey was saying. Now, I can remember when I was serving, and towards the latter part of my service career, I ended up being a drill and weapon training instructor, teaching new recruits as they were coming through. Now, the whole point of teaching recruits is to, I suppose, in a way, indoctrinate them into service life. And part of service life is making sure they are part of a community, a family, where they're continually working for each other and they're looking after each other in this work environment. And what generally happens is when service personnel finish their duty, however long it may be, when they leave that service environment and they go out into the real world, as they call it, into society, I've seen many, and I mean many, many, who leave, and then within a very short period of time, weeks or even months, they end up re-enlisting back into service life, regardless of what they were saying about it previously, because they couldn't handle it in Civvy Street. They couldn't handle the lack of respect, the lack of discipline, the structure of civilian life, and all the rest of it. They felt that, rightly or wrongly, within the service community, they had structure, they had purpose, they had a family around them. Now, couple this on top with what Jeffrey was saying earlier of where they might have been deployed, the things they've seen, and the mental area of it. It really is only the last probably 5 to 10 years that this has been a recognized problem from the military across the globe. And now there is certain things in place, but that still doesn't get away from the fact that if you look at the demographics of the veterans who are on the street, they're not young kids. They are aged. For instance, in the States, a lot of ex-Vietnam vets are there. A lot of the guys who are over in Iraq, Afghanistan as well, because of the trauma, mental trauma that they had seen, and they can't get that out of their minds. And what ends up happening is, rightly or wrongly, they latch on to things to try and make them forget. And inevitably, the things that they use to try and make them forget causes social unrest between partners, families, etc. And then they end up out on the street, and often dependent on the things that they are taking. The statistics, as Jeffrey was saying, when I was doing some research on there at the moment, the UK stands at around about 5% of the homeless community are ex-vets, and as he said, 8 to 10% over in the States. But as a percentage, it still works pretty much the same as 1 in 10. And the interesting part about this is, out of the mayhem of the ex-vets that are on the street, at least now things are starting to be done. Now, I did a quick Google search of how many charities there are out there at the moment that compromise the armed force charities, and it really is quite a high statistics. And I was actually pretty shocked at how many different charities there are now that are working for the good and benefit of the armed forces as charities. Now, in the UK, as in England, there's around about 1,800 charities, and there's also an extra on top of that, around about 450 charities for Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland. So if you combine those two together, we're looking at close to 2,300 now different charities that are all working towards helping ex-vets, whether they be Army, Navy, Air Force, or even the civil service, as far as the armed part of the civil service is concerned. They all come under the banner of ex-vets. This is because they now realise that they can't just end someone's service career, turf them out into Civvy Street and expect them to re-socialise into normal way of life without having any aid that they can go to because of the trauma, whether it be mental or physical, that many of them have succumbed to because of their service to their country. In the old days, it used to be, thanks for your service, here's your pension, here's your money, see ya, have a nice life. And people were left to deal with it on their own. And this is what's caused, in my opinion, the greatest travesty as far as veterans is concerned, because they really have literally laid their lives on the line for their country, and they are literally discarded out onto the street to fend for themselves when they've been looked after all that time through their service career, and they're expected to go it alone when they're out in Civvy Street. The mental side of the forces is something that I hope none of you people who might be listening to this have to come across yourself, because you see some horrific things if you are in combat situations, and it is something that unless you are a strong person, it's not you. And if you can compartmentalize things, then you're okay, but many people can't. And this is why now we have many charities in the UK that are there to help people, to discuss things, to medicate, to re-socialize, and all the rest of it. Now, it's certainly one of my passions that through OnPassive, it is something that I will be working for. We all have our own ideas, don't we, of what we want to do to help when money starts coming in OnPassive. Obviously, we're going to look after ourselves first. We're going to look after our families and our close friends and communities first. That's a given. But once that is all done, then we are all going to be looking outwards to charitable places where we want to help to try and make a difference. Now, I'm certainly not here to tell people what to do, but because there is so many charities, why reinvent the wheel? Why not go to these charities who already have the infrastructure, who already have the setup and the knowledge that they need, but the one thing they haven't got is the money. Now, that is where, in my opinion, as far as the ex-vets is concerned, we can really make a difference to try and help these charities to set up shelters, to set up food banks, to set up accommodation if needed, work placements, all of these things. The charities are there, but the finances aren't, because as always with all charities, they have to raise the money. It's not the governments that are giving them the money, it is through donations. And I do firmly believe that if you are a person who's in OnPassive and you become the scenario of your abundance is greater than your needs, then I think look at the charities that are in existence to help the causes that mean a difference to you. I'll leave it there for now. Back to you, Comfort.
I know. Thank you. Thanks so much, Red. That's so much useful information. You know, when I heard about the charities, I'm just like, I think I just need to knock and walk through the door one of these days and say, tell us more, what do you do and stuff. And, you know, it just feels good because, like yourself, I think about them a lot. I just try to imagine. I've never been in the military, but obviously anybody should think, basically understand that they could be going already through enough, then come back and find themselves on the street, can be a bit more than bearable. So, Jeffrey, I know that like you and Red have said, one of the things that I've learned too is the fact that most of them, if not all, they go through post-traumatic stress disorder and stuff like that. So what do we need more here? Accommodation, money, or their mental health, their mental well-being? What would make them whole again?
Boom, man, I'm glad you brought that up. That's an absolutely, we're going to hit that. We're going to hit that. But right to start with, so that folks do know, I actually did 14 years in the Navy. Then I did 6 more in the Army. And then I took the 20-year retirement that started paying me when I hit 60. So that's why you see me all over and not working. So anyway, I think before we determine ways that we can address as OnPassivians, how we can address the issue of homelessness as it specifically relates to veterans, I think it'd be good to know some of the causes of it and what the effects of it are and that sort of thing. And you just said, you know, hey, what about the PSD and stuff? So we'll start with that one, right? We've got PTSD and other mental health issues, if you will. And we know this is a direct result of a lot of the things that have gone on that Red was talking about. When you're overseas and you see things, you do things, you're a part of things that really do take a toll on you mentally. And unaddressed mental health concerns can lead to quite a few negative instances, including, again, you're talking about relying on something else, you know, like substance abuse, leads to job loss, leads to relationship breakdowns, you know. The divorce rate with returning vets is really, really high. And that's just the PTSD part of it, coming home. And there's a lot of things they do struggle with. And again, another issue that people really don't think about too much, Red, you alluded to, and that is they're coming from a place of structure, a place of community, a place of belonging. Everything has its place. Everything has a purpose. Everything. I mean, you know what you're to do. You know what your job is. You know where your functions are. You know who's above you and below you. When you jump in to come back into the civilian world, none of that, all that's gone. And it's really difficult. And sometimes because of the stress that you go through, these veterans, they have a real hard time making these day-to-day decisions because they're used to making very snap life and death decisions, and things just ain't working for them. Now, there's also things that we know about that go under traumatic brain injury. There's a lot of that stuff. It's what we call invisible wounds, if you will, right? Because you may not even know that it's there, but it affects you, your personality and your emotions and things of that nature, right? These things, these invisible wounds, if you will, they result in cognitive behavioral changes, and they make it very, very difficult for veterans to adjust to the civilian life for reasons that Red was talking about. Another thing that we go through that's a cause of this whole thing is, again, Red, you hit this nail firmly on the head, is a lack of support. Insufficient support networks and resources leave veterans feeling really isolated and very disconnected, and that is a hard thing to deal with. When you get into a situation like that every bit of that disconnectedness, the isolation, all of that stuff, then you run into the employment and the housing instability. You may lose what you do have. You may find yourself out in the street, difficulty finding employment, securing stable housing. All these things can lead to homelessness, not to mention, or actually we mentioned it already, the social isolation, disconnection from family and friends and community. I mean, people sometimes, the closest ones to you, really just don't understand. You know, they think, just get over it. Just make a decision. Just do this. And it's really not that easy. It's kind of like if you've ever known somebody that was maybe a severe alcoholic, and you're like, it's plain to me, just stop drinking. Well, unless you've been there, that ain't happening. And it's the same thing with veterans that come back and they're affected in this way. It's not as easy as just flipping a switch and turning it off and making it all better. And we also, obviously, we got the physical and mental issues that we talked about. And when they are unaddressed, they turn into other diagnoses like sustained substance abuse and things like that. And then what you end up is having a compilation or an amplification of the problems, because now on top of the original problems, now you've got a substance abuse problem. So you've got a dual diagnosis, which is really, really bad. The associated illnesses like that, the substance abuse, you get depression, anxiety. I mean, 20 to 30% of veterans experience depression and anxiety. And just as something out there for somebody to think about, if you have anxiety or depression, anxiety is actually brought about because you are in the future. You're thinking and living in the future, and you're anxious about it. If you come back to the present moment, that anxiousness, it'll go away. Easier said than done. I get it. On the other side of that, the polar opposite, depression, is because you're living in the past somewhere, and you continually dredge that up. If you get out of that, come back to the moment, that'll go. So that's just, kind of something that's a rule of thumb. And all of these things, substance abuse, depression, anxiety, all of this can lead to suicidal ideation, which, I mean, nobody really wants to go there, nobody really wants to go there. Now, do you want me to go into how we can address some of these things through OBLES, or you want me to just chill out a bit and let you get in here?
Yeah, sure. That was the reason. Yeah, because like I said earlier on, maybe we might like Red to start from that too. Both of you have to say, because you both are doing the right thing of giving as much information as you can, because people are learning about this for the first time. They are getting interested. And tomorrow, if Red says, I'm taking off, I'm starting this because I want to check on these vets here and there, everybody will be like, count me in. So we need as much information as we can. Red, over to you. Earlier on, another question was whether what they need more. Because sometimes when I listen, I feel like it's unfair, but I don't want to ask questions because we are going proactive by thinking of how to help our own way. So where do we go? What makes them happy?
Well, in speaking of us, and I love the way that Red, that you said it, when we as members of OnPassive are earning and we have excess, that is the whole idea behind what OnPassive is, guaranteeing our success and bringing that abundance to us to make sure that we are taken care of first, so that we will have that excess. Now, there's a lot of solutions to this whole thing. There's one that's called housing first approach, which means you find a veteran that's on the street. First thing you do is you get them into a home, and then you start addressing all of the other issues, or all the issues that put him on the home. There's substance abuse and health treatments that we can do, employment, education opportunities. You've talked about that, Red. There's also peer support and community engagements that we can deal with, right, that foster connections between veterans and their families and supportive communities and elements of that community. Now, interestingly, when you start looking at these things, it's going to be real easy, because there are a lot of coordinated entry systems like you were talking about already out there, charities that are out there, they're already connected. So it'd be really easy for us to jump in and say, wow, I want to get part of this, be a part of this, and start dialing numbers. And very easily, you can just, nothing more than send funding to whatever you want to. That's great. But there's other things you can do, and you can start your own programs. There is, Key Wendell sent me a video a couple of weeks ago about a guy that went over and he spent many years reestablishing a wildlife preserve, and had no idea about education or fixing the community or anything like that, or people that were really bad off. And because of him following his passion, the wildlife preserve was reestablished. It started to be a moneymaker. It started hiring all these people that were displaced, and people that didn't have jobs, and people that were hurting in many ways. And as a result of that, the whole community started getting better. And then they didn't have any schools. They didn't have anything, no teachers. Because of what he started, it started generating money. And because of that, Now they're working with like 89 schools, and they're training 600 teachers, and they're bringing the young ladies that, you know, when they turned 13, they got married off and that was it. And, you know, they never had all that changed because of his desire to work on his passion. OnPassive, to bring that back, I know that's kind of around my elbow to get to my thumb, but I'm saying OnPassive has got everything we need for each of us to follow our passion. And when we do that, it's going to lead us down that path that's going to be for the greater good. And so that's what I would do. I would get me straight, find my passion, look at what I want to do, and then start using the funding that has been provided by OnPassive, whether it's great or small, to do what really turns you on and jazzes you up. And there's a lot of folks out there with a heart for veterans. So I would certainly recommend, absolutely, get a hold of even, you know, veteran-specific programs, or implement some trauma-informed care, those sorts of things. You know, some of you folks like to pull people together, just promote collaboration and data sharing. It's all important to cover the entire thing so that we can raise awareness, reduce the stigma of it all, educate the public about homelessness with veteran populations, you know, highlighting the need for support and all of that. So, man, I'm so excited that you brought this up. I actually was like, wow, this is wow. Yeah. So thank you.
Right. Thank you. You know, Red, sorry, I know that you just want to respond, but things keep coming up to my mind too. So you know, one thing we need to remember is what Mr. Mufara is offering us here is time and financial freedom. So as much as we need money to do these things, listening to you both, I think that some people need to give even more of their time to these group of people than money. And we have both. So I'll let you go from wherever you want to read.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, isn't it? Is that you're saying that we should individually help. And obviously, I said right at the beginning, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your local community. And that fits nicely into what you're saying there, your local community. Now, obviously, not everybody lives in towns or cities, but I'm sure many of you live close to a town or city. And if you want to be one of the people that wants to be a hands-on helper or to do something, it's very easy. You get hold of a quick search on Google or any of the charities that deal with ex-vets will say what charities are in your local area that are there helping these people. And you'll be very surprised. There will be some that are there. And as I said, the biggest help you can give them is on a financial basis. I really believe there is people that are on the ground who are there helping. Obviously, there will always take more helpers. But the biggest one is, for instance, if there's people on the streets, they might not have sleeping bags. They might not have a soup kitchen set up. They might not have care packages, all these sort of things that cost money that they haven't got the funds to do. And as they say, help, you know, starts at home. My advice would be is to look locally first, to get your own areas as far as you can do in a substantial situation where they are covered, and then you can expand from that. I also do think, though, it is important for you to look at what areas you want to help in. Now, whether it's mental health, whether it's housing, whether it's the job route, whichever area you feel passionate about as far as helping is concerned, I think you should be very specific in putting your help to that one cause, because otherwise it'll be a minefield. You know, I mean, there is blanket charities here in the UK, for instance, the Royal British Legion, they do the whole network, and Help for Heroes, for instance, do the whole network. But that's not specifically targeting certain points that might be for you, your passion. Jeffrey talked about whatever your passion is. You know, if you've got a passion to get people back to work, for instance, then that is the area that you want to concentrate on. And most employees would take any ex-vet on if it was a subsidized job. What do I mean is a subsidized job? Most employers are quite happy to take on extra staff, but guess what? They can't afford the wages. They can't afford to pay the people because they just haven't got that money to help to employ somebody, even if they wanted to. So some of these charities, what they do is they put people in employment, but they subsidize that employee to give that guy some work. Now, I know, and Jeffrey will say the same, the biggest help you can give most people as ex-vets, and I'm talking from a male point of view here. I'm sorry, girls, I don't know quite how you all think, but I'm certainly talking from a male point of view here and an ex-vet myself. To give people structure to their life is a job, a reason to get up in the morning, something that they enjoy going to, something to give them purpose. And that is really what they lack, because through the whole of their military careers, they've had a purpose. And that purpose is to look after your mates, to do the job that you are trained to do, okay, and come out the other end. Now, if you can get people back into that scenario of going and having a job, whether it's a couple of hours a day, whether it's a half a day, whether it's a full-time job, it doesn't really matter. But to give that person a purpose, again, really does benefit ex-vets. It gives them a reason. And that is what most of them lack. They feel like they've been cast aside. They've been thrown on the scrap heap without a care of anything. I've done my time. They don't want me anymore. I'm useless. And that's how they feel, a lot of them, when they're on the streets, because they think that nobody gives a rat's about them. And giving them this purpose, once again, really does help rejuvenate them, regenerate them, and it helps them turn their lives around. So that's what I would do. I would find something that you are passionate about, find a specific area, and then concentrate on that. Back to you, Comfort.
Oh my, Red, listen, when earlier when I was talking about us having time and financial freedom in our hands, this is exactly what I wanted. But whether you understood me or not, you've said everything I wanted to hear. So I think you both are doing a great thing, and everybody is learning a lot from it. Many people are surely just saying, I found it now, because this is just a go-to for everybody. Because like you rightly say, everybody wants to say this is all I can offer, because sometimes it's not necessarily about money. So I really appreciate you both so much. And Jeffrey Rose Mutabi from South Africa was saying that we need to teach them how to fish and not just let them depend entirely on us. So is this what you've been saying throughout, in other words?
Absolutely. Well, you know what I'm going to do is kind of just give a synopsis. Let me start by saying the short answer is yes. You know, you want to teach them to fish, not give them a fish, right? So that they can eat on their own accord and do things for themselves. You see, the way I'm seeing this, veteran homelessness is really a very complex issue, and we can't just boil it down to one or two things. I mean, it demands a multifaceted response. We know that by understanding things that Red and I have gone over, population percentages, associated illnesses, distresses, causes, those sorts of things. We can learn to understand the root causes of it, right? And by understanding the root causes and then implementing what I would term probably evidence-based solutions, we can work towards ensuring that those who have served in various countries aren't forgotten or left behind and taken advantage of. But even more than that, making sure that doesn't continue to happen. We take the ones where it's already happened, and I think a holistic approach is excellent. And by this, I mean we find who needs help, whether either one or more or whatever. It depends on your focus and your resources. You get them off the street, right? You get them housing. And then once you've got the housing, and this could all go on at the same time, But then once they're off the street, we need to get some sort of a diagnostic program going so we can see if there's underlying circumstances that have caused this, and they're going to cause it again if we don't take care of it. And then once you get some diagnoses under the belt, you get to care for them. So now we're addressing all of the physical and mental, social issues that put them there. And then again, while we're doing all this, we're also, as Red had said, we're looking to put structure and give them structure and purpose, and give them, find them employment, that sort of thing, so that holistically we're teaching and we're treating each individual all the way through the health cycle. So I personally, I think, this is a collective responsibility for us, and we should be able to, at some point, empower veterans to be on their own through that kind of a thing. And we would do that by, again, like Red had said, we focus on what our passion is, what our own paradigm of passion and compassionate action is for that, whether it's a little piece of that or taking on a whole program. So, but yeah, we want them to be substantially able to take care of themselves and be sufficient on their own in the end, and then start helping others. So
I know the ripple effect, right? So, Red, one thing that I've gotten again from you both, we can empower them directly. And already there are people, these charities, like you mentioned earlier on, who are already in the field. What will we do? Empower them to go continue from where you were, do even more. And I think maybe just start talking a bit about that, and let's see how we start rounding up.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the existing charities are concerned, then, every case is individual. But what you have to look at is that the individual charities, do they facilitate what you want to happen out there? Like Jeffrey was saying, it's very important. And the most important thing is to get them off the street first. That's number one priority. However that pans out, whichever charity is in your area that are working towards getting that ex-vet off the street, that is the one that you should be working with, because that is got to be priority number one. Get that person off the street. Then, as he's rightly said, then there needs to be individual appraisal of each of the people to see what the problems are, and then you address the problems after that. But as far as the existing charities is concerned, I firmly believe that in your own area you should work with the charity that is working mostly in your own area, because why wouldn't you want to make a difference locally to you? I think that's the first port of call, is to make a difference locally. We want to look after our family and our friends. Why not look after the people that are on the streets locally first, rather than somebody who's in a different country? It makes no sense to me that, for me, charity starts at home. And that's what I would be concentrating on. I would be certainly looking at the veteran charities that are working in my local area, seeing which one fits the needs of what I'm have in my head of where the route I would like it to go down, and then have a meeting with them to support them in their actions, whether that be in a monetary venture, whether it be in a physical venture, as in help. But all of these is certainly something that we can bring into the OnPassive fold through OBless, through our products, and even through the affiliate program in the future. There is no reason why we can't introduce these charities to the affiliate program of OnPassive for a way of raising revenue for those charities. And I'm sure that they would love to see other avenues presented to them that they probably haven't thought about. So it is a multi-pronged attack, as far as I'm concerned, to helping not only the individuals but also the charities to raise more revenue that they need to do the jobs they want. And this is really where OnPassive is going to make the big difference. We talked about OBless many times. Now, OBless is going to be more of a educational, raising money type of platform until we actually see it in operation. We haven't got the exact specifications for it, but I think individually we can still make a lot of difference outside of OBLES through our own generosity that we're going to do with our own finances to help these charities. So it's a great topic. I think it's one that many people out there hold very close to their hearts, because they do understand the sacrifice that so many have made for their countries. And for me, it seems such a shame when people literally give their lives and sign on the dotted line for their countries, and they end up in circumstances that they never expected to be in, never envisaged they would be in, through really no fault of their own. And literally the help isn't there that it should be there. This is where we come in. We can make a difference individually, collectively, and I certainly believe that in the future, OnPassive will be there helping many of these charities to make that difference for our ex-vets across the globe that are now at the moment living on the streets. Back to you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. They say fields are wide and harvests are waiting. I know we need harvesters. We have a good number already, but someone is just out there thinking, oh my God, I wish I could be able to help these people. But then here's the opportunity they don't know about. Let's round up on this point, just sharing the opportunity to someone.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know what? You just hit on something. We've got well over 1.4 million founder accounts or charter member accounts in more than 200 countries. So working in your own community, it's a no-brainer. More than that, even if you've got members around you that are in that same, you could join together and literally create your own complete system of care if that's something you want to do. But even more than that, I know the history of OnPassive. Mr. Mufar started this thing a minute ago, because he could not find the type of program and the type of business online that he wanted to join and to run. So he had to create it. Okay. Anybody that's not a member of OnPassive right now, if they're listening to this and they're hearing this, they're like, well, yeah, I don't have the money and I'd like to, and I don't know what OnPassive is. I'm just saying, click on your link or Red's link or somebody's link, jump in there, get some of these free products, look at what we're doing, because you will be able to build an income relatively easy, relatively quickly once we get going. And if you've got others that want to do the same thing and you join, you will have more than what you need to be able to do what you want to do. So OnPassive really is a key to that. Whether you're in it now or whether you're not, you can still use it. It'll take a little bit of planning. It'll take a little time, but it's not like it's going to cost you an arm and a leg, and it's not like it's going to take you 10 years to do it. Because if you've got a passion for it, we've got a way to be able to make sure that you can earn through that passion, and we're guaranteeing you success. So that's what OnPassive's about. And don't forget, we haven't even touched about OBLES yet. So, but individually, we can really make a big difference. You're right, Red. We are collectively and individually, if we tackle this, it can get taken care of just from the member base alone.
Exactly. So thank you, Jeffrey. I know this is a topic we've just started, and it's going to go maybe a few days on, so that people get as much information as they can. So we'll get a day for OBLES. So Red, one last one from you, please.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is, as far as OnPassive is concerned and the topic we've been talking today about, is it going to fix the whole of it? No, it's not. It takes collective thought process. It takes a lot of collective hard work and dedication. We already know there's many charities out there that are trying their best to make a difference for the ex-vets that are homeless at the moment through many, many different countries. As far as OnPassive is concerned, we will be in a position where we can financially help, but I think also it's very important that we all do our own bit individually, and that means looking in your own communities, looking around where you are, doing a little bit of research. You know, there's nothing wrong right now at this time going onto Google search, finding what charities are in your local area and seeing exactly what they're getting up to be helping the ex-vets.
Yeah.
Get yourself inspired by what they are trying to do, knowing what they're doing already, and seeing if this is something that you can help them with during your journey of OnPassive. It certainly won't go unnoticed, and the more people that do it, the more difference it's going to make for those people out there on the streets. Back to you.
What a wonderful evening. I thank you both so much for doing this for us. And guys, we need to share this. Someone needs to just listen to this and start thinking right, because we've got work to do. And this is Empowerment Network. We are being empowered by a great company. And our job here is to go out there and empower people to empower themselves. And why not empower the rest? So it's all good news, like our CEO would say. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.